Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ajay Singh.
Good afternoon. Welcome. So today's session is on VMware Cloud Management Platform, Drill Down, and Outlook. My name is Ajay Singh, and I'm really excited to be here. I've been in VMware a little over 3 months, but I've actually been in IT management for over 20 years. Been with a couple of startups that we successfully sold to large companies, as well as ran the management businesses for Hewlett-Packard, as well as for BMC Software. And I can tell you over the years, and particularly in the last 4 years, I've been watching the VMware management business with a lot of admiration as it's grown with leaps and bounds. And I can tell you personally, for me, I view this as an opportunity for my career to take it to the next level along with you folks so that we are the next generation cloud management platform of the future. And I can tell you a lot of you folks are here as well because you view this as an opportunity for your careers to make a difference in your corporations as they navigate the choppy waters of the digital business transformation that was talked about on main stage. We certainly live in interesting times. In my 30 years, actually the last 5 years have been the most amazing because there's been this amazing confluence of technologies and compulsions in the industry. But really at the heart of it is this little device that sits in our pocket. 30 years ago, this was a supercomputer. Now imagine having this supercomputer in your pocket. This thing has a phone, a gyroscope, a camera. Those supercomputers had none of those. As well, it's tethered to the net. And actually, if you look at this article, cover page of The Economist just earlier this year, talks about the planet of phones. By the year 2020, 80% of the adults on this planet are going to have this supercomputer in this pocket. And I don't care which company you are with, if you're not reimagining the relationships with your customers, leveraging this supercomputer in your pocket, you're destined to be the digital dinosaur of the future. So it's the imperative on every company, and that's what the mad scramble is all about. Think about the time when that first bank a couple of years ago introduced the capability to take a picture of a check and deposit it. Imagine the conversation going on at the competitor bank's head of retail operations, talking to their CIO, saying, I really need to get a dev team going up really fast. And if the CIO said, please fill out a form and I'll order the equipment, or here's a bunch of waterfall development tools, well, that was a short conversation. Because just with the compulsions of the competition in the digital realm, that head of retail branch operations said, I'm going to go to some public cloud, get my resources there, I'm going to download a bunch of open source software, set up a DevOps process because I don't have a choice. So if you think about it, this Gartner quote about the state from one particular CIO says, my business and organization are being engulfed by a torrent of digital opportunity that we can't respond to fast enough. And this is threatening the success of our business and the credibility of the IT organization. So in some sense, IT has been, for the last couple of years, and still is at a crossroads. Are we going to step up and get a seat at the table and help our companies make sure that they are not the digital dinosaur, that in fact they are on the leaderboards as all industries go to this gut-wrenching digital business transformation, that your company is on the leaderboard 10 years from now? Or are you going to become irrelevant, only to be a cost center to be cut and outsourced to some low-cost location. So we are coming from a past where IT kind of just about kept up to a future where things are moving really fast. And when such a change happens, it's an opportunity. And that's why I'm here, because I view it as an opportunity for my career, because change is always opportunity, to make a contribution to the industry, to get the next generation cloud management platform. And I look forward to work with you folks to jointly go on this journey together, because we have the R&D resources, we have the talent pool, and jointly with our mutual insights, we can get there. But let me first start with a story about two systems admins walk into a bar. I'm sure you think, this is the beginning of a really bad joke. But the admin on the left is from a small company, 100 VMs, short of resources, short of headcount, handling physical, virtual, network storage, compute, everything, really having a hard time keeping up. The one on the right is from a large Fortune 500 company, tens of thousands of VMs, large organization. But still, there's just constant demand from the lines of business to drive applications faster, to go to the public cloud, to play with OpenStack, to ensure that cost is being cut, but at the same time, compliance is not being sacrificed. So what's common to both of these system admins? Well, they certainly need a drink. That's for sure is common. Let's dig in a little deeper. What's really common? They both need management. And I can tell you, the two represent the bookends of our customers that we've worked with as we've kind of built vSphere with management to our vRealize Suite cloud management platform. And as I was saying, excuse me, I'm in the middle of a presentation.
Just a minute. I'm dealing with a career-limiting situation.
What's the problem?
Geez, I gotta find him. Oh, I'm so sorry. Since I have everyone's attention, you mind if I just explain for a second? I just received this notification from the VMware Cloud Management Platform at our company. Clearly a very important situation. We're having a chassis evacuation.
What's that?
Well, our cloud management...
Oh, God.
Let me...
All right.
Okay, this is actually good news.
All right, okay, that's good.
So we've built a lot of automations with our analytics package.
Okay.
And if this works, you can see our billing application will be running in a hybrid cloud configuration in about 15 minutes. And I won't have to run out of here, ending my VMworld to run it forward.
Great, I'm confident it will. So I tell you, which company are you with?
I'm with Zappy Electric Charging, home of the drive that charges you.
Okay, Zappy Electric.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, why don't you guys come over in 20 minutes, and we'd love to share your story with the audience.
I think everyone would rather hear from you, but for a T-shirt, we'll do it.
Okay, you got a deal. Let's do that.
Great.
All right.
Be back in a little bit. Thanks.
All right. Okay, where was I? So we talked about this journey with the two bookends, the two system admins. And in some sense, if you think about our journey, we started in 2009 with virtualization management. Then with the acquisition of Integrain, we expanded our portfolio. And then with Digital Fuel, we added the business capability to the portfolio and really consolidated it in a set of suites. And then with the acquisition of Dynamic Ops and Pattern Insight, we really started to build this multiple cloud capability. And today, we have a cloud management platform with the vRealize Suite, OpenStack management, and DevOps capabilities. And actually, our customers over this journey have been voting with their dollars, because IDC data shows here that we are the #1 in data center automation and the #1 in cloud systems management. And this has been our management platform to build out the software-defined data center platform as a control plane on that platform. And talking about a platform, here's the customer, SAIC. Let's see what they have to say.
SAIC is a systems integration and engineering company that specializes in delivering information technology and technical service. We already had a pretty robust VMware-based deployment. So the first thing we added was vCloud Automation Center to give us that IT as a service capability, that multi-cloud management that we knew our customers really wanted, not just internal, but primarily external as well. So once we had vCloud Automation Center in place, we needed cloud service providers to manage through that platform. So vCloud Air was an obvious choice for us. Software-defined data center provides us with a mechanism for tightly coupling the delivery of IT services with the underpinning infrastructure elements that make up those services. The management of the infrastructure from the infrastructure platform into the cloud and service delivery layers of the IT delivery framework allows us to respond to degradations in IT service performance effectively. So when you unify all these technologies together, and you combine them with the orchestration and automation capabilities that are delivered by software-defined data center, you're able to create a cohesive, comprehensive IT service delivery framework that enables our customers to meet their missions in a cost-effective and efficient way, and bring on new services and new features that their customers need rapidly and effectively. And for us, that's the end game of software-defined data center.
So we talked about our journey. And so where are we here and now today? So today, we are a cloud management platform over the software-defined data center. We are the control plane for the software-defined data center that abstracts resources into services. But what's unique about us, what's uniquely different about us compared to anybody else in the industry, we are the only solution that has an integrated automation, operations, and a business suite that really delivers some unique value that none of our competitors can. And what is that? So if you think about it for a minute, automation enables that agility that we talked about that's so important for the digital business transformation. Operations allows you to optimize the infrastructure so that you deliver the kind of user experience you're looking for. And ultimately, business gives you that cost transparency such that you can deliver the service quality, but at the lowest possible cost to serve. And so that's the power of the integrated platform, the power of the platform delivering service agility, service optimization, and service cost. But we've talked a lot about some customers. We've talked about what we're doing. It would be great to hear from a leading industry analyst, Dave Bartolotti from Forrester, to talk about his thoughts on the cloud management platform. Welcome, Dave.
Thanks, AJ.
Welcome.
Thank you. He told me I could have 3 minutes. There's no analyst that has ever said anything in 3 minutes. So I'll try. Let's do it really fast. We've heard from the beginning this morning about it's a really cloudy future, but it's not a cloudy future until the analysts tell you it is. So I'll tell you, it is. It's a great time to cover cloud because the numbers keep going up, unlike the market. The last couple of weeks, we get to look at cloud from every dimension. If we look at it from applications, we can start there. Follow the apps to cloud always. Every year we ask customers what their corporate policy is for deploying new applications, if they have one. 2014 was the first year that more people told us they prefer to deploy apps in the cloud exclusively or as much as possible than said they prefer to do it on-prem. That's a leading indicator in that big mushy middle of people that choose applications on a case-by-case basis. That's steadily progressing over to the right. We can look at cloud from the infrastructure side. 32% of all US enterprises tell us they already have a shared private cloud in place. Over 55 by the end of next year, if predictions hold, but people aren't really good at predicting in the next year what they're going to roll out. I'd say that's going to be in the 40s. 20% say they use hosted private cloud in someone else's data center, and 23 already support some public cloud. So we've got a lot of cloud infrastructure floating around. And if we talk to development teams, which you can follow the apps and you can follow the developers to the cloud, we ask every year how many enterprise developers in North America and Europe consider themselves cloud developers. meaning they've built something for an elastic public cloud platform in the last year. 3 years ago, 10%. Here, 38. So it's quadrupled just in 3 years, and that's self-identified cloud developers. And I think what that means is we've got, within every enterprise, more cloud and more types of cloud. So there's no hybrid future for cloud. Hybrid's today. You heard a lot this morning, the use of the word hybrid. We've debated in the analyst community all the time. Hybrid is not a third type of cloud. It's not something else you build for. Nobody calls analysts asking for help on their private cloud. They call us asking for help with hybrid data, hybrid security, hybrid application development, and most recently, this year especially, hybrid management. Right? It's constant discussion, how am I going to manage this growing hybrid portfolio? So, AJ and the team at VMworld asked Forrester Consulting to look at a bunch of customers who were using the vRealize
suite.
The whole suite. Yeah, we did look at the whole suite. The vRealize suite. To basically find out if we could find some consistent ROI numbers. So there's a session this afternoon at 2 o'clock where someone else from Forrester is going to go into details of all these. AJ asked me to preview them here. What we do is we talk to a whole range of existing customers of the vCloud Management Suite, vRealize Management Suite, and we feed them through what we call total economic impact model, which is like an ROI calculator on steroids, and create this typical model of what an enterprise might save. This just published in the last couple of weeks, but the initial results, we're seeing people report 2.5 times their investment return within just a couple of months. So you're not going to break the bank by investing in vRealize automation, and that's because you start cutting 3 to 4 weeks off deployment times, 144 hours out of application development time per request, and that means more frequent releases, higher quality releases, more often. But the important thing is it's not just about these aggressive new cloud-native apps. Laying on powerful automation tools to an existing virtualized environment, you can get more cost savings than you got from your initial virtualization investment. We're seeing people report $1,000 more per VM in hardware savings for hardware they didn't have to buy because they can more effectively reuse it across different divisions. But the most important one that I really love is 9-hour reduction in time to initially provision servers. When we talk to clients about their sort of journey toward the cloud, the first thing we always ask is, are you doing self-service? You'd be surprised how many private clouds say, not quite yet. Self-service isn't really for us yet. And we say, well then, the problem with that is we don't mind if you call what you're doing a cloud, but if you sell it as a cloud to people that have used the public cloud and then tell them that they have a 9-hour delay before they can get resource they provision with self-service, they'll see the difference. The best thing that the vRealize suite can do for you is to help you do the 3 things that you have to have for any hybrid cloud environment: standardization, self-service, and automation. If you can get those 3 things right across a hybrid cloud estate, and those are really the only 3 you have to focus on to deliver cloud successfully, you'll get some of these numbers in return. Thanks.
Thank you, Dave. I'll have that clicker.
Oh, sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Folks, a round of applause for Dave Bartoletti. Okay, and actually we agree with Dave. It's all about the application. And actually, if you see this picture of Pat Gelsinger actually saying that, and in the back is the infrastructure. You see that little infrastructure in the back. At the end of the day, the SDDC infrastructure is all about supporting the agility, the cost, the business requirements around delivering applications really fast. So let me spend a little time about where we are going in the future. What's our vision for the cloud management platform? You remember the guy we talked about earlier on, the CIO, at a crossroads, get a seat at the table or become a cost center? Well, we want to partner with that CIO. We want to partner with you to build that self-healing, application-aware, hybrid cloud solution that delivers that competitive edge in the digital business transformation. It's why I view this as the opportunity. It's why I'm here. It's why we can all collectively take this to that next level where we have that self-healing, application-aware cloud management platform. So there are 2 big concepts we talk about here. First is self-healing. Second is app-aware. So self-healing is where the infrastructure intelligently rebalances itself to ensure that the applications get the best outcomes. And its corollary, app-aware, is where the infrastructure does everything, always being aware of the consequences on the application. And so it requires that creating of the connection between the application and the SDDC infrastructure. But let's double-click a little bit into it, the cloud management platform, and I'll talk about 3 concepts supporting this notion of self-healing and app-aware. The first one is around SDDC management. What if, using programmable APIs, you could configure an application, including the virtual networks and east-west firewall policies, to really rapidly deploy a new app that is highly secure across public-private cloud boundaries? The next concept is hybrid cloud brokering. Again, you saw at the main stage the vMotion across the private-public cloud boundaries. What if we could extend that, and through drag and drop, you could move applications seamlessly across hybrid cloud boundaries, public-private? You could leave data on the private side, and you could take some of the most stateless components on the public side. The third concept is around, and at the heart of self-healing, is around analytics-informed, policy-driven automation. What if you could set a few knobs, 4 or 5 knobs, response time, cost envelope, a couple of policy items, and you're done. And then the system automatically, using analytics and rebalancing, ensures that those SLAs for those applications are optimized and delivered. So there's a few big concepts here. I'll drill down a little bit into it. So for SDDC management, we want to automate everything across SDDC, be it vSphere, NSX, vSAN, our integrated OpenStack offering, Evo that we just talked about on main stage, doing full lifecycle management for the entire SDDC stack. We also want to provide a single look and feel for the entire stack, a single shared unified view of the stack. And then we want to give a couple of ways to interact with it. A developer-friendly, API-driven approach, as well as an IT admin-friendly, GUI-based self-service approach. So that's where we are headed on this particular area. In hybrid cloud brokering, what we want to do is be able to deploy application workloads based on a broad set of criteria: cost, security, compliance, performance, and do intelligent policy-based workload placement. You heard this notion of cross-cloud, extending that further. Self-service application placement across the public-private cloud boundaries. Drag and drop. But factoring in health and cost metrics in making that decision. That's where we want to take this. And then finally, the heart of self-healing, analytics-informed, policy-driven automation. We want to do automatic capacity allocation, reclamation, and rebalancing. The 3 R's, right? Right sizing, reclaim, rebalance. Be able to do that in a more intelligent fashion, where we do continuous remediation and self-tuning, focused on compliance-oriented optimization. So you heard a few big concepts of where we want to take this next generation cloud management platform. We have a lot of the ingredients already in place. We've done a first level triage across those 3 pillars and started to drive some use cases. This is a natural progression for us. And you saw some of the elements of that on main stage already starting to fall in place. And this is all going to be at the same time, from a consumer standpoint, what does it mean to the consumer of this private hybrid cloud? The developers, the application line, the businesses that are running a DevOps process, where you're offering this SDDC private cloud or a hybrid cloud that essentially gives you access through APIs and through GUIs on a self-service fashion, allows cross-cloud use cases through brokering back to vCloud Air, Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, essentially allowing you the agility, allowing you the ability to optimize cost and resources such that you can get a seat at the table as your organization navigates these choppy waters of the digital business transformation. So kind of in summary, we are evolving the CMP from the 3 pillars today, operation, automation, and business insight, into a self-healing, application-aware CMP capable of seamlessly managing the hybrid cloud. So with that, what I wanted to do next was host a panel here. And what I'd like to do is invite Seth Froelich from CIT, one of our customers, Tim Garza also from CNRA, one of our customers, to come on stage, as well as Dave Bartoletti from Forrester to come back again, and John Herlocker, our Vice President and CTO for the Management Business Unit. Welcome, gentlemen. Welcome, Seth.
Thank you.
Okay, so what I wanted to do was start off actually with our customers for both Seth and Tim. So we've heard from Dave talking about this notion of high growth adoption in cloud. Could you maybe talk about what you're doing with cloud and where you're going? Maybe Seth, you could start.
Sure. So we're this close to actually implementing our private cloud. We've always had a vision at CIT of a hybrid cloud approach. We started with private because it dovetailed very nicely with our data center program, which essentially gets us out of the business of owning our own data centers. We're moving to a colo model, and understanding that there's always going to be workloads moving externally hosted in the future. We wanted to maintain a very small footprint in the data center. So to make that happen, we implemented vBlocks in both data centers. And we're using the vRealize suite along with NSX to manage both of those, and those are essentially our private clouds. At the same time, we're doing a lot of analysis and are very excited about the announcement this morning about expanding into the public cloud and making that our overall hybrid model. What we really want to do is just use the cloud management platform to manage the different endpoints and based on best fit for purpose, direct workloads to there.
Great. So could you maybe, Seth, talk a little bit about CIT and at a macro level what they do and for the audience?
Sure, it's a commercial services lending firm, mid-market.
Okay, fabulous. Tim, your point of view on your journey to cloud?
Well, the California Natural Resource Agency has roughly 33 organizations, and their primary mission really is to restore, manage all the critical infrastructure of California, water, oil, gas, electronics. So what we're doing is running a private cloud.
Okay.
We have 33 organizations running out of private cloud. We're running 4,000 VMs, 11 petabytes of data. We run over 2,000 applications out of this cloud. So now we're stretching that. We're looking at ways to stretch the capacity and capability and drive the consumerization back to our program areas. We cannot keep up with their demand. It's just too great. The velocity is too quick. The demands are too great. So we have to figure a way to stretch our data center and, more importantly, to become a full-blown software-defined environment.
Great. So Dave, you heard sort of two customers talking about their adoption and pretty good adoption of the cloud.
Right.
Could you maybe talk a little bit about how you might guide them on what to look for in the future?
Self-service.
Self-service.
We talked about it this morning a little bit, that the fact that you can build the most efficient environment. If you slap a cloud label on it internally, you have to offer self-service. And both of you said that you were looking at that in the organization eventually. Do you think it's going to be a process problem?
No, I think it's a cultural problem.
There you go.
I think it's one of the things that we found out in our early adoption is that we really have to change our IT operational model. We really have to go from a traditional IT vertical operation and more to horizontal transformation. We have to take the various business domains and technology domains and compress them down. So I think as we look at self-provisioning, as we look at where we place workloads, that's going to be critical, changing the mindset to the operation and to the business to really think about consumers.
Have you found that you need people with different skills, or to identify the people that are ready to make a transition like that?
I think some of the basic engineering skills are still required, but how you look at how you apply those skills, how you architect, right, how you provision, how you think is really what's changing our culture.
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
Great. John, any comments from you from a VMware management business unit standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I want to pile on the kind of self-service thing. I think this is a real trend that I'm seeing as well, too, with customers, is the really trying to move more self-service up. So taking some of the things that traditionally would only, the capabilities that would traditionally only be available to the low-level infrastructure people, right, like capacity analytics, capacity management, these kind of things, and pushing those up to the end consumers. And I think we were having a conversation this morning. You talked, what did you call it? You called it?
Co-op system admin.
Yeah, cooperative system. And I think it's a really exciting possibility. I think the line of business people want to have more control. They want to manage more stuff themselves. I think everybody wins as you take those low-level services and start to enable people to do some management themselves. And this is, I think, a big trend that I'm pretty excited about.
Yeah, that's great.
The private clouds that we see stall the most, right, are the ones that only get halfway there to trying to mimic the public cloud experience. Right? And they think that people only want a little bit of operational control. The business units only want some control, only want some self-service, and then they'll be okay if I slow the process down and overlay IT controls on it again. It's really about laying frictionless IT controls the whole way through the process so they don't even see that you're monitoring, controlling, adjusting workflows behind the scene. Again, because that's the experience in the public cloud.
That's some excellent points, excellent points. So Seth, I think when we spoke, you had mentioned that you were looking at two things. As you kind of did the automation, you wanted to make sure that you had the governance and the control, and the other one was around security as you kind of went through this process. Could you maybe talk about that a little bit?
Sure, and it kind of dovetails nicely with the self-service, because the approach we're taking to service delivery is that we're providing a closed-loop system where all of our service offerings are available to our entire IT staff.
Okay.
I'm not opening up to the business just yet. And anything that's in that system has already been automated and already passed through our governance and approval process. Anything that's required of that would go through the governance and automation review, and if it's deemed acceptable or required, we would put it in there. But there's no outliers there. Everything that's a service offering is in there, and that could be deploying a machine or it could be self-service.
Okay.
We also use that to, based on the workload type, to direct what endpoint they're going to go to make sure if there's PII, personal identifying information, it's not necessarily approved yet to go out to external cloud, although that probably will be a future use case. From a security perspective, I think with everything that's been in the news lately and all of the high-profile stories, the conventional wisdom has shifted that it's not a matter of if your perimeter firewall is going to be breached, but when it's going to be breached.
Yep.
And everyone does a pretty good job of protecting their DMZ, but once there's a compromised workload in your green zone or trusted network, it's pretty much, in most firms today, still can just go ahead and probe every other machine there. There's no east-west protection between workloads. So the approach we took is to implement software-defined networking leveraging NSX, and the key driver for that was the microsegmentation we can get out of NSX. So each application effectively becomes its own DMZ, has its own DMZ, and is protected from other workloads, and we're using that to just protect the workloads east-west as well as the traditional north-south firewall protection. The fact that it also allows us to rapidly provision new networks and ties in nicely with our firewall vendor out of the box, we're gravy.
Great, thank you. And then Tim, you had mentioned being a service provider across 33 different agencies. Could you maybe talk about how you manage that relationship and some of the challenges?
Yeah, I think you spoke earlier in your presentation about different departments. We had 30 different IT departments, and they varied in size and skill sets. But the one common thing was they weren't able to really be a good business enabler. As their business moved, they couldn't move with their business. They became a constraint. So what we really did is look for ways that we could use virtualization, a software-defined environment to create shared services. So instead of just building a bunch of siloed private clouds, we actually built shared services so they can use platforms together, so they can invest and reduce that investment and provide a bigger return on investment quickly to their business. So that was really, again, a cultural shock for some of our IT. A lot of small IT shops, they live on the hero syndrome, where a guy does everything. And really, you need to really kind of relook at that and look at what you need to do.
Got it, got it. And Seth, you had mentioned over breakfast earlier today about Puppet integration and how you kind of leveraging that. Could you maybe comment on that a little bit?
Sure. There was another, we actually made the decision to go with Puppet before we chose a cloud management platform. So one of the key criteria we had was to select a cloud management platform that integrated fairly seamlessly with Puppet. Because we didn't want to get into having huge sprawl with all the different blueprints. So we have definitions within Puppet. VCO does a really nice job, or VRO now, does a very nice job of registering every new workload with the Puppet master. It then does the first Puppet run. It also presents a menu of all the different possible groups that you could have within Puppet. And it's been pretty seamless. We can deploy new workloads, they register with Puppet, and they take on that personality and just returns it back. And VRA handles all of the error handling if anything goes wrong, anywhere from provisioning up through the Puppet deployment and then back down, and triggers alerts for us.
Sure. No, we definitely see folks using Chef and Ansible and these kind of products on the config side in a DevOps kind of environment. And talking about DevOps, maybe Dave, if you could comment on the development community, the adoption of the cloud. The statistic I think you mentioned, 23% of the developers. Now it's going up, that number. Could you maybe talk to that a little bit?
Well, I think the whole challenge is what we were talking about this morning, that continuous integration and continuous delivery are terrific on the app lifecycle side, but if we don't have continuous infrastructure delivery that's that fast, IT becomes the bottleneck, and it's never been that way before, that dev cycles are faster than we can get infrastructure out the door. So I think trying to match continuous delivery of infrastructure to the pace of continuous integration and continuous delivery of software is the #1 challenge for companies, especially ones whose business is based on developing software that helps them compete with their competitors. And within the next couple of years, how many companies are not differentiating themselves on software? So the old adage that software is eating the world, really software is the fundamental way that you're going to compete. I mean, even if you sell grain, you're probably going to compete.
Some software associated with it.
That's right.
That's true. And then maybe in closing, John, if you could, you talk to a lot of customers, any thoughts from your perspective and what you see?
Yeah, I mean, I shared a little bit about the self-service thing being a key thing. Maybe I'll say a few words about kind of the self-healing part about, how about that, right? Yeah, because, one of the things, we've been going out there trying to say, how do we make the dream come true, right? Like you see the dream and what's compare it to the reality. And I think the dream is in sight with the real self-healing is perhaps, self-optimizing, I guess, is perhaps a more generic, accurate thing. And I think that the dream is in sight, right? I think, to me, it was like 4 pieces. It's like, first, you got to have all the data, right? So you got to collect the metrics. It's why we introduced Log Insight recently, because there was a big gap in the information about the environment. Then you got to sort of understand what are you trying to optimize, what are your SLAs, right? You got to have that. Then you got to have the statistical models to sort of, match those two. And then finally, you've got to have the ability to sort of influence the world and make the changes, right? And I think you're seeing, Orchestrator is becoming after all these years, suddenly Orchestrator is very popular and hot, and all of our customers are all over it. It's a very powerful tool. And so I think the dream is really there, right? The self-healing, self-adjusting, whatever. And we're seeing a lot of excitement from our customers from that and desire for that too, right? They want to do, I think we were discussing earlier, like it's a common theme to say, all right, you now have, twice as much business you have to support, but we're not changing your budget, right? And so how are you going to deal with that, right? And so it turns out that most infrastructures are significantly underutilized when you kind of look under the hood. And but the good news is that the sort of self-optimizing stuff that we're working on and that we're going to be rolling out is really going to significantly increase your ability to, in terms of efficiency and also in terms of agility. I mean, one of the biggest reasons why a customer cannot get a workload up and running as fast is because the capacity just isn't available, right? But if you've got this sort of self-optimizing thing to continually make sure that you have free capacity, then you remove that major bottleneck. So anyway, very excited with that, and I think we're seeing a lot of demand from that from customers, and so.
Great. Well, thank you, folks. Thank you, Seth, Tim, Dave, and John.
Thank you.
Folks, a round of applause for our panel members. Okay, if you remember those folks from Zappy Electric, where are you? All right. come on, let's hear your story. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Ajay.
What's that?
Well, this is one of our charging cables. If you have an electric car, then this is probably familiar to you or anyone.
Yeah, I do have one, actually.
Okay, so you know what that is then.
Yes. Here's a clicker.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Welcome.
Again, my apologies for the rude interruption earlier.
It's okay.
I am happy to report that that career-limiting event actually turned into, hopefully, a career opportunity for us to talk about. And
There you go. It's all about opportunity.
So a little bit about Zappy Electric. Zappy Electric Charging, we've been a initially very small startup in the electric vehicle charging market. So we operate stations, and we've been growing very dynamically. So over the last few years, we now have 10 data centers spread across the country. But in true startup notion, we are very much a white box type of chassis and racks in our data centers. And those are running. We're running on a shoestring budget, which means that we don't have a lot of HA. We're running a lean data center strategy, and we have to really rely on our analytics and also bursting out to the cloud. So the issue that you saw earlier today was something that we've been encountering in the past, and so my colleague here, Dave Overbeek, who's our data center operations manager, came with me to help present kind of what happened on the operations side of our data centers.
Okay.
So Dave, you want to?
Sure. So, Ajay, let me start by telling you how you're helping us with our day-to-day operations.
Okay.
So we're leveraging your powerful CMP policies to help us drive management and simplify our complex management needs like alerting, capacity planning, automated actions, remediation plans, even deployment locations are all built into these CMP policies. And then we assign those to our different types of priorities or groups of applications running in each one of our data centers. Speaking of those different priorities, we have our business critical applications, right? Our P1 applications. Those are having anything to do with our point of sale at our charging stations, right? Those obviously have to be always running. If they go down, we start losing money, and I get in trouble, and Hartman gets in trouble as well. We also have our support applications. Those are the kind of the back-end applications dealing with things like our reporting systems or helping people after they've made a charge and they need some support and they have to call somebody. All those support systems are running on those support apps. So priority 2, still very important. It's not as important as priority 1. We then actually have just enough space in our environment to run some test dev, right? So Hartman's got a team of guys, and as we find space in each one of the data centers, we allow them a little bit of space to be able to start building out new applications.
Well, you guys are skating on thin ice there, huh?
We really
White
are.
boxes, no HA, just enough space.
Very startup, right?
Very startup, yeah, I get it.
So let me tell you a little bit about the problem that we unfortunately interrupted your session for. You really need to learn to silent your phone, by the way. One of the chassis, these are the Acme chassis, very cheap, right? And you get what you pay for. It has a problem where we've had in the past where the backplane just suddenly kind of freezes up and stops working. And when that happens, we lose all the hosts, and then with that, all the applications and all the workloads running on it. It's a business nightmare, and it's an operational nightmare for my team. And what we found was there was really nobody that knew why it was happening. So we had to actually use your CMP to do a little bit of troubleshooting. So we used your log analytics tool to delve into all the different log files and look at all the unstructured data, and then found that right before the chassis would have a problem and actually freeze up and lock up and die, we saw a huge uptick in these chassis heat warnings. So we were like, that's interesting. I wonder if there's anything else out there that's a good indicator of when this thing's going to have a problem. So we started looking through some of the metrics that you're collecting and doing dynamic thresholding on, and we found an abnormal spike in both I/O latency and drop packets. All three of those being key indicators to say, hey guys, this chassis is on borrowed time, time to get these workloads off, time to save these applications.
Doing some correlation across these?
Exactly, and what we did is exactly that. We used your alerting engine then to correlate these both unstructured and structured dynamic threshold-based data together into a new alert that we call critical chassis warning.
Okay.
Right? Now that's great that we've got a little bit of an early warning, but that still requires my guys to jump on and do all the work. So we really wanted to use your automation framework to automate that so that we could then evacuate the chassis automatically. Would you like to see how we do that?
Sure, yeah. Sure.
Great. So the first thing I need to say is, like you said earlier, we run a very lean data center. Our demand and our capacity are right there neck and neck. So we don't have a lot of space available to take all those workloads and drop them down. In fact, if I do lose that chassis with those 4 hosts on it, you can see.
Ouch, yeah, you can see
Yeah,
that would be a problem.
Big capacity shortfall. I have no room in the inn for everybody else if I lose those. So we have to do something to help take that demand and lower it so that I can then be lower than my capacity again so I can evacuate that chassis. And the first thing we've done is we've automated powering off those P3 applications, those test dev applications. We've worked with Hartman and the business unit, and they agree that in an emergency situation, you know what, it's okay to go ahead and just power those off. So that's the first thing your automation framework does, is it looks at those P3 apps, it knows which ones they are based on the CMP policy they're associated with, and takes those off. So there they go. And when we're done, we see we still have a capacity shortfall.
Yep.
Not as much as before, but still, I'm still not enough to be able to save my business critical applications. So the next thing we did is we talked to the business again in Hartman, and we talked about what else can we do. And the next step is, of course, to take those P2 apps, those support apps that are still important and still need to be running, and to move those out to vCloud Air. So that's the next automated thing we do, is all those P2 apps go flying out to...
Wait a minute.
Seriously.
Let me take that for a second. Just
Okay.
a second. Okay. So,
Easy, guys, easy.
Yeah,
all right,
seriously.
We're under control. We're under control. As the app owner, I will just say, it's not quite as easy as just moving all the apps straight into the cloud.
Yeah,
all
I was
those
actually
P2
beginning
apps.
to wonder that. Apps are complex. Yep.
They are. There's definitely lots of things that we need to check. It's not just about the technical feasibility of moving them, but there are business parts to that too. Mm-hmm. We have cost issues, we have reservations, we have a lot of compliance things that we need to look at. So that second alert that came in, the second interruption, which I'm sure you won't forget for a while. Just to review, it's for a billing application that was going to change its configuration to a hybrid cloud model. And to do that, we definitely instituted an approval step. So someone on my team, one of the app owners for this particular application, had to review certain things before authorizing the automatic reconfiguration for a hybrid cloud. So I'm going to focus on the technical pieces of that.
Sure.
Okay. The heart of it is really the fact that we use your release, application release pipeline automation tool.
CodeStream.
Yes, exactly. And as you can see, we are already using a hybrid cloud configuration when we do our testing, but we prefer to run it on-prem because it's a PCI-centric application. It's billing, has confidential data in it.
So you really end up testing both the configurations,
Exactly.
on-prem and in the cloud.
And what the engine or the piece of the capability that really lets us do that is your converged blueprint technology.
Okay, so in these blueprints, you associate the network, with the virtual?
Absolutely. So in the network, we associate a number of things. Obviously, we associate, as you can see from the slides, the fact that we have the VMs and the software components. Mm-hmm. We have also the dependencies between the software components, graphically represented. And then we also have the ability to associate the network, not only the physical networks, but also the on-demand networks, the software-defined networks through NSX, as we were hearing about a little bit earlier today. And then we can also associate security posture tags with the VMs themselves. So here you can see that the application server has a PCI tag, as does the database server. Mm-hmm. But the database server also has another tag, which makes it a database tier and therefore a priority 1 application.
Yeah, that brings an interesting question. I mean, what about storage? I mean, how do you handle that?
Well, so for storage, it's actually quite good that you asked that question. So the storage is all in the database. And because the database is a priority 1 application in Dave's context, it will never move off-prem.
Got it.
And the application servers are stateless, and therefore, while there's some minimal vSAN type of storage associated with them, moving those to the cloud isn't a big deal. In fact, if we look at the two blueprints next to each other, the one for the on-prem solution and the one for the hybrid cloud configuration, they're identical except for the app server. And you can see that the app server tier in one case is running on-prem, and on the other case, it's running on vCloud Air. And the networking is all taken care of with NSX and vCloud Air networking, and they're predefined, so all we have to do now is go back to our pipeline. One, make sure that everything is running on the latest and greatest build, that the latest and greatest build has also passed all the tests, and therefore we can do it with confidence because it's an automated process. And we go forward and go back to the approval and launch the approval to change the configuration of the application.
Got it.
And now I'm going to hopefully give it back to your right hand, which isn't numb anymore from the shock.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, and we can go forward and finish the story.
So that was the second beep when that approval.
Yes, that was the second beep, and that was actually the relaxation point for me.
That was the relaxation beep.
Yeah, that was the relaxation beep, because I knew that the analytics and the automations we put in place, the capacity analysis, the escalation was working the way we had been working together as an app owner and a data center operations owner, that those analytics and those decisions were working as planned.
Great.
Otherwise, I'd be out of here.
Exactly. So now we've got the permission of the app owners, and we can continue, don't shock me again, to move these P2 applications, these priority 2 applications out to vCloud Air. Once those are moved out, then the capacity analytics kick in again and determine, hey, guess what? We now have a capacity surplus. I now have less demand than I have capacity. I can now safely move all of those P1 applications down from the 4 hosts that are still on borrowed time, right? They haven't died yet, down to those remaining 12. Right? Now, of course, what we do is we use your new rebalance feature to do that intelligently, because I don't want to just randomly start pushing workloads and applications down without understanding that they'll be safe where I put them. Right? And even still, the rebalance can actually move pieces back and forth on the hosts that are actually working fine just to find the best fit, kind of like a jigsaw puzzle, to ensure that I've got the capacity I need when those applications go down there. So I've got a lot of trust in that automation. Once that's been completed, you can see that chassis is now empty. All those hosts have been cleared. Yeah. I can now turn that chassis off and go ahead and call Acme support and get their hardware guys on the phone to get that fixed.
Great. Hey, that was a great story. You guys certainly earned your T-shirts. I think I got an extra small for you.
Thank you very much. I'll wear it to the beach. I'm going to wear it to the beach.
Triple XL for you.
Wow, thanks.
And Ajay, please accept this charging cable as a token of our appreciation for coming to present.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right, folks, a round of applause for the Zappy Electric folks. So folks, kind of to wrap up here, we saw in the demo some of the technologies that are here and now, and actually you can go see them in our booths and in our different venues over at VMworld. Some of these are a little forward-looking, but you can kind of start to see some of the concepts around self-healing with obviously some approvals and manual intervention for starters to kind of gain the trust and confidence of the organization. We also have, on the management side, a ton of sessions happening. So please feel free to attend these sessions and learn more about the management business unit and some of the exciting things we are doing towards this vision of self-healing, application-aware cloud management platform. So with that, thank you all for attending. And if you have a chance, please do complete the survey. Remember, every completed survey goes into that draw. So thank you all. Appreciate it.